Welcome to the Teenage Mutant Fight Club podcast. Get ready for a wild journey into the world of flash fiction where, we meet those underdog outcasts, those teen heroes facing some pretty incredible situations. And you, our listeners, you guys brought us two really fascinating pieces this week, both action-packed, a little bit of intrigue, and definitely some of the unexpected.
Absolutely, and it's a journey, right? First, we're diving into Harmony's Protectors, a story set in the legendary Paris Opera House. Then we're going to switch gears completely, venture into the wilderness with Wild Pack. Both stories, that really showcase these young individuals stepping up when things get, extraordinary.
So let's start with Harmony's Protectors, okay? Picture this. The Paris Opera House. But it's not just a stage, right? It's a secret sanctuary. And as this flash fiction story reveals, it could even become a battleground. And one of the things that struck us, hopefully you too, is how it kind of, echoes those classic tales, but brings in this fresh group of characters. So we'll explore how these orphaned artists, inspired by, a myth, a legend, rise up to protect this iconic landmark against a developer who, he's all about profit. Think about it. Music as a weapon, hidden passages for escape, and the spirit of artistry as their shield. It's pretty cool, huh?
It is. What's really interesting to me about this particular story is the setting itself. I mean, the Paris Opera House, it resonates with so much history and artistic legacy. And for Leo, Maya, and Ben, it's not just a performance space. It's their home, their refuge. And this personal connection, it really raises the stakes of the whole conflict, doesn't it? What do you think it is about this specific location that lends itself so well to a story about these hidden protectors?
That's a really great point. I mean, the Opera House, with all its history and all those rumors and secrets, it already has this kind of, mystique about it. It's a place where illusion and reality kind of blend together. And that's just the perfect backdrop for a hidden group like these orphans. But, now their sanctuary it's being threatened by a developer, someone who probably only sees, dollar signs where they see history and home. It's a clash of values, right?
Definitely. The developer, he's coming at it from a purely, transactional angle, right? Modernization, profit. He's completely overlooking that intangible value, the cultural, the emotional meaning it holds for these orphans. And this tension between development and preservation, I mean, we see that everywhere, don't we? Yeah. It makes you think about the places in our own lives that we value beyond just money and what we'd be willing to do to protect them.
So let's meet these young protectors. We've got Leo the dancer. He's got this incredible grace, and he knows those hidden passages of the opera house like the back of his hand. That knowledge becomes his tactical advantage. And then there's Maya, the vocalist. She's got this powerful voice, and she's been trained to use the opera house's acoustics, to her advantage. And then there's Ben, the musician. Now, his hands, they're scarred, which kind of hints at a past we don't know yet. But he can draw these incredible sounds, sometimes disruptive sounds, from that ancient organ. And that organ, it's almost like a mirror of the opera house itself, complex, full of secrets. What do you think their individual skills tell us about how they're approaching this challenge?
I think it's so fascinating how their artistic talents are being used for defense. They're not fighting this developer with brute force. They're using their creativity, their knowledge of this incredible building as their weapons. And Ben's scarred hands, that just adds another layer to the mystery. It makes you wonder what happened to him, what forged that connection he has with the organ, with the opera house itself.
And then, of course, we have Maestro. He's the enigmatic mentor. He's the one who took these orphans in. The flash fiction story keeps his identity shrouded in mystery, which adds to that almost legendary feel of the group, doesn't it? What kind of impact do you think this mysterious mentorship has on their actions?
It really enhances that sense of hidden tradition. It's like a passing down of knowledge, of responsibility. He's probably the one who saw their unique abilities and nurtured them, instilled in them that sense of duty to protect this opera house, this spirit of art it embodies. And the mystery surrounding him, it just adds to that almost mythical feel of their whole resistance.
Okay, so how do they actually defend their sanctuary? The flash fiction story gives us some really vivid examples. Ben uses the organ, and he creates these unsettling vibrations, like this low, discordant hum. And it kind of messes with the developer's confidence, his sense of control. How effective do you think a tactic like that psychological warfare, would actually be?
I think it's incredibly clever. He's manipulating the environment, the sound. Ben's not directly confronting the developer, but he's creating this this unease, this feeling that something's wrong. And that can really disrupt someone's plans, make them question, what they're doing. It's a subtle way to resist, and it really uses the unique features of the opera house to their advantage.
And Maya, she uses her voice to create what sound like spectral warnings, distractions. She plays on the opera's ghost stories, its long history. It's almost like they're turning the opera house's own legends into weapons.
Exactly. They're taking the opera house's history, the folklore, and turning it all into a tactical advantage. By tapping into these existing legends, they're playing on suggestion, on fear. The developer isn't just facing them, he's facing the perceived spirit of the opera house itself. It's a really interesting example of how stories, how narratives can be used to influence how people see things.
And Leo, with his dancer's agility and his knowledge of all those hidden spaces, he uses the architecture itself to his advantage. Like trapping a spotlight to expose structural weaknesses, things like that. It shows how well he understands this place.
It's a great example of how knowing a place intimately can be a powerful tool. Leo isn't just hiding, he's actively using his knowledge of the layout, the flaws even, to counter the developer's actions. It really underscores the idea that strength can come from knowing your environment inside and out.
The flash fiction story makes it clear that their fight, it's symbolic, right? It's not just about the building itself. It's about the artistic soul of the opera house, the history, the feeling of home it represents for them.
Yeah.
And that fresco hiding their entrance, it really illustrates this point perfectly. What does that hidden entrance represent for you?
Oh, that hidden entrance. I think it symbolizes the secret nature of their resistance. It's like a threshold between the everyday world and their hidden world,
Right.
their sanctuary of art and defiance. It suggests that their real strength lies in their ability to operate outside the developer's awareness, to protect something he doesn't even see, even understand.
There's also this really strong theme of legacy running through Harmony's protectors. I mean, they're inspired by the Phantom's legend, right? A figure so closely tied to the opera house. But they're creating their own path as protectors. And Maestro's answer, when asked if the Phantom is real, he says, perhaps, but every legend echoes a truth. It just adds to that feeling of a continuing tradition.
That line is so powerful. It suggests that the spirit of the Phantom, whether it's a literal ghost or just stories, it represents this long-standing tradition of protecting the opera house. And now the orphans, they're part of that narrative. They're writing their own chapter in the opera house's, legendary history.
And the flash fiction story really highlights that contrast in how the opera house is viewed. To the developer, it's just a commodity. It's about profit. But for the orphans, it's alive. It's home. It's where their art thrives. And that difference in perspective, that's at the heart of this whole conflict.
Exactly. The developer's view, it's purely economic. And that clashes so strongly with the orphans' deep, emotional, personal connection to this building. It's a common conflict, unfortunately. Financial interests often overshadow cultural and emotional value. It's something to think about.
Yeah. So this first part of our journey, it ends by emphasizing the collective strength, the shared purpose of these young protectors. They're bound by their love for the opera and their loyalty to Maestro. Their stage is the shadows, and their audience is sometimes, just themselves. It's a powerful image of a group, a dedicated, almost secret group, standing up for what they believe in.
Their unity, it's their greatest asset. Each of them has their own unique talents, but it's their shared dedication to the opera house, to each other, that allows them to resist, to stand up to this developer's plans. It shows that even against powerful opposition, a strong, unified community can be, incredibly resilient.
Okay, ready for change of scenery. Let's journey to that rustic eco-village in Wildpack. And the contrast, from the grandeur of the opera house to the raw wilderness of the eco-village. It's a pretty dramatic shift, wouldn't you say? What do you think this sudden change tells us?
I think it immediately highlights the different kinds of threats that young people can face, the different environments where they might need to become protectors. In Wildpack, the danger isn't to a building, it's to a way of life that's deeply connected to nature.
And the threat this time comes in the form of a militia, a ruthless one. They've been driven out of the towns, and now they're looking to exploit the eco-village's resources. For these villagers, survival isn't just about living off the land, it's about actively defending it. This feels more direct, more physical than the first story.
Yeah, the militia, they represent a much more obvious physical danger compared to to the developer in Harmony's protectors. They want those resources, and they're willing to use force to get them. That makes them a much more immediate, a much more potentially violent threat to the villagers' safety, their entire way of life.
We meet another group of resourceful young people in this story. First, we've got Maya. She's skilled in foraging. She's got this deep connection to the natural world, and it's that understanding of the wilderness that allows her to form that unlikely alliance with the exiled wolf pack. Her howl, the story says, becomes a call to arms. It's pretty awesome. What do you think Maya's connection to nature represents in this context?
I think Maya's knowledge of the natural world, it's not just a skill, it's her biggest strength. In the setting, in the wilderness, that knowledge becomes, well, it's essential for survival, for defense. And her willingness to reach out to the wolves, it shows that she understands, interspecies communication. It shows she recognizes that you can find allies in the most unexpected places.
And we meet Ben again. But this time, it's a totally different context. Even in this rustic setting, he's still the tech guy. He repurposes technology for defense. Like he uses thermal imaging for scouting and solar panels as a makeshift alarm system. Pretty resourceful, wouldn't you say?
How do you think Ben's ingenuity bridges that gap between the natural and the technological in this story?
I think Ben's resourcefulness shows that even in a low-tech environment, technological know-how could be so valuable. He's not relying on fancy weaponry. He's adapting, he's being creative with what's available, and that shows that innovation can happen even when you're working with limited resources.
And then there's Kai, the artist. His observational skills, honed through art, they're what make him so good at assessing danger. The story even talks about him using his paints in a tactical way. It's pretty interesting. What advantages do you think an artist's perspective might bring to a survival situation?
Well, an artist's eye, it's trained to notice things, right? Details, patterns, things that other people might miss. Kai's artistic skills probably make him very observant, allowing him to spot danger, track movements, things like that. And using paint tactically, well, maybe it's marking trails, identifying friend or foe, maybe even creating diversions. It's a creative way to apply his artistic talents to a very real, very practical need.
Now let's talk about their allies. They've got this exiled wolf pack led by a scarred female. They're also looking for refuge, which kind of mirrors the villagers' own vulnerability. Both groups are outsiders threatened by a more powerful force. The wolves' initial observation and then their decision to join the fight, that's really central to the story. What do you think that parallel between the wolves and the villagers says about the situation?
The fact that both groups, both the villagers and the wolves, are looking for sanctuary, it creates the sense of empathy, of shared destiny. It suggests that alliances aren't always formed because of shared strength. Sometimes they're formed because of shared vulnerability. And that scarred female wolf, I bet she's got her own story of resilience, which makes her a really compelling counterpart to those young human protectors.
The flash fiction story does a great job of describing their alliance, the strategies they use. It starts with Maya trying to build trust with the wolf leader. That gesture alone speaks volumes about her understanding of and respect for nature. Why is that initial act of trust so crucial?
Maya's approach is all about respect, about mutual understanding, not about aggression. And that's the foundation of their whole alliance. By showing the wolves that they're not a threat, she opens the door for cooperation, for mutual benefit. It's a great example of how empathy can lead to the most unexpected partnerships.
And then we see the wolves disrupting the militia's attack, not by fighting directly, but by using their speed, their agility, their knowledge of the terrain to create confusion.
Yeah.
How is this different from a more, traditional fight?
Wolves' tactics highlight how powerful natural abilities and knowledge of the environment can be. They don't engage directly, which could be dangerous for them. They harass, they confuse, they use their speed to disrupt formations, create chaos. It's a much more strategic approach, a more sustainable one. They play to their strengths.
And Ben's repurposed technology, it plays a huge role too. Like that blinding flash from the solar panels. The militia were probably relying on night vision and then bam, totally caught off guard. It's a clever way to use what you have, right?
Absolutely. Ben's ingenuity lets them counter the militia's, potential technological advantage with a simple but really effective solution. It shows how resourcefulness and creative thinking can often be more powerful than having superior firepower.
And Kai, the artist, he uses his paint for identification in the chaos. He turns something artistic into a practical tool for, telling friend from foe in the heat of the moment. Such an unexpected use of his skills.
It's a fantastic example of how creativity can be essential in unexpected situations. Kai's artistic skills offer a really practical solution to a critical need during a chaotic fight. It highlights the value of having diverse skills within a community.
One of the most surprising tactics mentioned in the story is the use of wolf scat. They use it to confuse the malicious tracking dogs,
Yeah.
talk about unconventional problem solving, and it shows a real understanding of the ecosystem.
That tactic, it shows how deeply they understand the natural world. They're willing to use any resource they have to their advantage. It's a testament to their connection to the ecosystem, their ability to think outside the box when they're facing a threat. It's like a form of ecological intelligence that they're using for defense.
The story also explores those themes of adaptation and interdependence. The villagers learn from the wolves' resilience, and the wolves find a potential haven in the eco-village. Their survival is intertwined. What kind of message do you think this interdependence sends?
This idea of mutual reliance, it really underscores how interconnected all living things are. It shows the potential for mutually beneficial relationships between different species. The villagers offer the wolves some security, and the wolves provide a natural defense. It shows that cooperation can lead to greater resilience for everyone involved.
It's so interesting how the story contrasts these young environmentalists with more traditional heroes. It describes them as kids echoing Thoreau, not war cries. It emphasizes that they're not trained fighters. They rely on ingenuity, on natural allies. It's a different kind of heroism, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a more modern take on what it means to be a hero. It values intelligence, resourcefulness, and the ability to form those unexpected alliances over just brute force. It shows that standing up for what you believe in can take many forms. Sometimes the quietest voices, the most unconventional methods, those can be the most powerful.
This part of our journey wraps up by highlighting the bond between humans and animals. They're both fighting for a shared sanctuary, and their reading of Jack London, which was mentioned in the summary, it takes on a whole new meaning as they themselves live out a story that's reminiscent of his tales. How do you think that connection to literature deepens our understanding of their situation?
That connection to Jack London's work probably gave them a framework for understanding that relationship between humans and the wild. It might have even inspired them to be open to this really unconventional alliance. And by living out a story that echoes London's themes, they're embodying this long tradition of human-animal interaction. They're highlighting those enduring themes of survival, loyalty, and the power of the wilderness.
So we've journeyed through these two incredible flash fiction stories, Harmony's Protectors and Wild Pack. What are some of the key insights we can take away when we consider them together? You, our listeners, you brought these to us. And it's amazing to see how both stories explore this idea of young, unconventional heroes protecting their homes, their values, and they do it in completely different settings.
Yeah, absolutely. The environments are different, the threats are different, but both stories emphasize the power of resourcefulness, of courage, the strength you can find in unity, whether it's a group of artists or an alliance between humans and animals.
And it's interesting how in both stories, the protagonists, they don't rely on brute strength. They rely on their unique skills, their knowledge of their environment, the alliances they build, the artists, they use creativity, their understanding of the opera house to outsmart their opponent. The environmentalists, they work with nature, they turn what seem like weaknesses into advantages. What does this tell us about resilience?
I think it tells us that true resilience, it doesn't always come from overwhelming power. It comes from the ability to adapt, to use what you have, to find strength in connections, both human and non-human. It's about looking beyond the obvious solutions, embracing creativity when you're facing adversity.
It makes you wonder, what are the opera houses and the wildernesses in our own lives, the places we feel we need to protect? And what are those unconventional strengths we have, the unexpected allies we might be able to call on? These stories, they remind us that heroism comes in many forms, and it often appears in the most unexpected places, in the most unexpected people.
That's such an important question to ask ourselves. These stories, they encourage us to think about our values, the things that are important to us, and to recognize that we might have unique skills, we might have access to support that we don't even realize that can help us protect those things. Heroism, it's not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about those everyday acts of courage, of connection.
Thank you for sharing these incredible flash fiction stories with us. We hope our journey into these worlds has sparked your imagination and maybe even given you a new way to look at the challenges we face and the potential for heroism that exists in all of us. And, keep seeking out more flash fiction. Those short stories, they can be so powerful, so thought-provoking, and they often offer fresh perspectives on timeless themes. What other hidden battles are being fought around us, just out of sight? What other unlikely alliances are shaping our world? It's something to think about. Until our next journey into the captivating world of flash fiction on the Teenage Mutant Fight Club podcast, keep those stories alive. Rate and follow the show for more captivating stories from the Teenage Mutant Fight Club podcast.
And keep exploring the world around you with open eyes and an open mind. You never know what surprising sources of strength and inspiration you might find.